Okay, welcome to the special B Omer edition. I am your host for the evening, Rabbi David Katz, HaKoyin Shlita. We had an earlier class, the Torah of Shem, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, where I was supposedly going to prepare this piece of the Zohar. But thanks to present company, not only did we prepare it, we finished it. Like the hors d'oeuvres became the meal, so to speak. Pun halfway intended. The idea for the night's learning came to me by way of a famous Ramachal piece that he talks about this Zohar that we did, 153A in portion 3 of the Zohar, on what is the spiritual Noah's Ark. Believe it or not, we found Ger in there, didn't we? Believe it or not. Even when I don't try to find Ger, I find Ger. I think I've proven that more than I'd want to. I don't even want to find Ger anymore. I'm through finding Ger. And what happens? I get phone calls. Look at the Ramdu. The angels in the Garden of Eden were the Ger. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I'm glad I know now. The learning of Ger never stops. It has nothing to do with Ger. Yet it has everything to do with it. I don't know. Anyways, you get the point. So we did that piece. Eric, you'll get the download. And really, we did it. It went really nice. And there was just nothing left to say. Which we might as well do the original Ramchal and Adir B'Marom, which is his commentary on the Zohar. So let's go with a deeper perspective on this Zohar piece and from the Ramchal. I think this is it actually worked out the way it was supposed to work out. This is a better way to do it in terms of the class schedule. V'nifresh asa zeha inyan hativ. We're going to explain it now. This is how I was doing the accent, by the way. We're going to explain it now. This Indian well. V'tida ma'aseh rashbi b'merasoi. You should know. By the way, we are learning Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Torah on Lag BaOmer, not in Sfat. Every other year, I would have been watching the bonfires blaze, and now we're in the holy city of Modin. So the point is, we're actually talking about Rabbi Shimon and Zohar stuff on the night of the year to do that. Go ahead and give yourself a round of applause for doing such a noble act. You should know what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was doing in that cave. Umahu inyan hazohar. What is this complex thing called the Zohar that the rationalists want to say is a forgery? Please refer to the previous recording of the class why I'm mentioning the rationalists against the Zohar, a.k.a. the Erev Rav, anti-Kabbalinics that make learning Torah miserable and bitter, where the Zohar and Kabbalah is going to somehow be like a Noach's Ark, and it makes the bitter waters of Mara sweet, like the 7 laws of Noah that are the epitome of bitterness. No hide, 7 go to heaven. Until you recognize the 7 Sfirot Kabbalah, then you get Ger. And that is not bitter. That is a sweet endeavor. The Torah of Shem ben Noach. Ki hine kama pamim darshu sefer hazoyer. How many times the book of the Zohar, the book of Kabbalah, the book of the hidden light, the non-rationalist book, has explain the secret Besod Tavis Noyach Ube Parshis Bahalois Chazal Leshoinain Vemaskilim Yazhiru Kizoya Rakia Alin Inun Daka Mishtadlin Besefer HaZoyar. The men of intellect will be bright like the firmament's splendor. Those that delve in the book of the Zohar, which is like Noah's Ark. It's the buried treasure that separates the Erev Rav out. The very fact that, you know what you could possibly say, Loretta? Noah, if he represents the Torah, the Erev Rav on the outside are in the bitter waters of the flood. Thereby, what is the hidden treasure on the ark? Shem ben Noach. And the implicit Torah of Shem ben Noach. Same formula for the Torah of Moshe. There's a Torah, it has the light in it, the Torah of Shem. The Erev Rav take the Pashup Shot plain meaning to the point of bitterness. And it's all about the vessel Noach the Tzaddik. And this is a problem because this is why this was so hard to find. My Ramchal actually has the wrong location of this Zohar. It wants to say Zohar Chadash Gimel, 153b. It's not. It's Zohar Chelik Gimel, 153a. That's why I was a little bit of a goose chase to find it. It's so... The sources are the biggest deal to find the right source. A lot of times misquoted. That was my biggest fear in the Soul Mazel book, was that I gave the wrong source. I didn't. But man, was I afraid I did. Because I know how much of a problem it is. The Shechina is in the first Golus. Kavar Amreinu Shelo Yisrael B'Sayid HaKelim. This is only the secret of the vessels are in Gullus. You understand that? The Ark of Noah is the Shechina, first Shechina in Gullus, which is another way of saying it's the vessels are in Gullus. The Zohar is nothing more than a book of a collection of vessels. You might call those vessels words, which is why the Zohar compared them to treasures. And we all know with the fringe rabbi movement, people are attracted to words. You want to know the secret of all secrets, people? Do you want to know? Do you know how I know if a book is kosher or not? Honestly, do you want to know? You give me Kabbalah or a rabbi, how do I cheat and know if it's kosher? When I say kosher, I don't mean the opposite of treif. I'm saying, is it the bomb or is it not the bomb? How do I know if it's the real bomb? Let me tell you, the Zohar has a distinctive style of lingo. There are people, sages, who speak the lingo, and those that don't speak the lingo. I'm not saying you're treif if you don't speak the lingo. I'm saying you're either a Zohar guy or you're not a Zohar guy. I'm a Zohar guy. I really am only interested in terms of Kabbalah and my personal soul, ingesting into my soul Zohar stuff. You might not want Zohar stuff. I don't know. I'm not you. I want Zohar stuff. It's what I feel Hamish and comfortable with. You want me to tell you who some of the Zohar guys are? Ramchal, the Sulam, the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Nachman, Arizal, Chaim Vital, Ben Ish Chai. Those are a couple. I want to tell you who's not Zohar people? Lubavitcher Rebbe, Chabad Hasidus, Chafetz Chaim, halachists. Chafetz Chaim, I'll give him a little bit because he mentions the Zohar as halacha in Mishnah Berurah. And again, I'm not saying it's treif if it's not Zohar. There's great literature that's not Shakespeare. I don't care if you like Shakespeare or not, but would you agree Shakespeare was something different than everybody else? Don't get into like, well, there was another guy in England that was just like it. You know what I'm talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking footnotes at all. We're not talking references or footnotes or enthusiasts or fanatics. Okay, the Lubavitchers are pro-Zohar. This is not an anti message. Exactly the right, Loretta. We're saying the words. Who is giving the lingo? The difference is the Zohar words go right in like syrup. You don't even need to chew it. It just goes right in. It's super, super refined words and concepts. You might like beef jerky. I like beef jerky. I don't want a meal on beef jerky. I want baby food. Meaning right in. Like manna. Remember, this is not physicality. This is spirituality. In spirituality, the anti-baby food is Ferengi food. Who understands what I mean when I say Ferengi food? Explain it. Explain Ferengi food as opposed to baby food. No, we're saying somebody chews it up for you. Like a Ferengi does. Right? The Ferengi women chew the food for their men. That's what McDonald's Torah tastes like. They chew it up for you, put it in a plate, and then have you eat it. It is yucky. How about dogs that vomit? They forget they vomit, then they eat the vomit. That's the backside Sitra Achra version of like an elixir of spiritual food. Zohar, it just goes right into your soul. It is disgusting. If you knew what McDonald's was, you would think it's very disgusting. I know we all eat it, but the bottom line is you shouldn't and you know you shouldn't. At least when you learn the Zohar, you know you're getting a filet mignon. Eric type 1. So it's the vessels are in Gullus. God put the vessels in the Zohar. God put the vessels in the Ark of the Covenant. How did those vessels, the Ark of Noah, how did those vessels get in Noah's Ark? Does anybody have the answer from wisdom? How did the vessels get in Noah's Ark? You want me to tell you? Okay, exactly. But how, Lars? You're almost there. You're 50% there. When God commanded Noah and Shem in the ark, that aroused such a sublime Torah those vessels were then naturally put in the ark through Noah and Shem? Do you give me a 1 or a 2? You got that? God's commandment of how to build the ark purified and refined their own Torah vessel messages so that then they were naturally placed in the ark. That's a Torah of Shem concept by definition. V'lo bo la'or bin hapnimis klal. And it didn't come to her the light from Panemius at all. Didn't come to her light from Panemius at all. Meaning the Shekhinah no longer had her own light socket. She was in gullus, darkness. Like a rain cloud, just without any, it's called like Hefker, it was abandoned. Ad shebo Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, v'zeh minei shehu nitzutz mimoshe Rabbeinu olav hasholom. Rabbi Shimon came, and he basically turned the light on in the Shekhinah. He understood the Shekhinah, the vessels, and he built a work of books so that the Shekhinah could come into the book. Lars, or whoever else, how did the Shekhinah enter the book of the Zohar? How? Think, Eric Bryan, think. I'm going to tell you how. Because the vessels that were made of the Zohar were able to contain the light of the Shekhinah. Therefore, there was a natural gravitation and attraction for the Shekhinah to come into those vessels. If you build it, he will come. Type 1. And Rabbi Shimon had that power because he was a spark from Moses. Again, Shem and Noah knew how to build the ark so that the Shekhinah would come into it, as it says in the highly acclaimed work, Sol Mazel, by Rabbi David Katz, available on Amazon.com. So too, Rabbi Shimon built the Zohar, and the Shekhinah could come right in. Eric, when you speak, if you speak with refined vessels, will the Shekhinah come into your speech? There you go. See how it works? How do you get those refined vessels of speech, Eric Bryan? You do what God tells you. It's called mitzvot and Torah. It refines you. Rabbi Miller says it every day. Get strong in Torah. Then you develop the vessels in your speech, thought, and action. If you've never heard of a mitzvah, you're not going to put out much light. You're going to be putting out a lot of Big Mac McDonald's. We don't want McDonald's. Ube'emis Moshe hu harishon v'hayoser ikari. Moshe is the first one in truth and the most ikar. Moses was more ikar than Shem, Noah, Rashbi. Moses is the master of all time. I'm learning this more and more and more. You know why Moses was the master and you're not? Eric, do you know why? I was thinking, somebody asked me a question, and I explained it by using words like, you're right, it is Mazel. Explain what do you mean? I use using words like adjective and noun. Oh, well, that word there is used like a noun or an adjective, right? You guys have all done that before. But would you consider yourselves linguists? Remember, the Vilna Gaon says to know the 7 wisdoms. I'm not a linguist. But could you imagine if you were a linguist how much you could use analogies from linguistics to explain the Torah? Do you realize that? If I was a geologist, would I be able to depict the secrets of the land of Israel a little clearer? The fact is, I'm an uneducated fool. I went to public school, didn't do much college, learned yeshiva in a Baal Tshuva yeshiva in Sfas in the 2000s decade. That's what he did. By Mazel, Moses was a master of more schools of wisdom than you can imagine. How many of you have a collection? Stamps, rocks, baseball cards, fabrics. How many of you have a collection? Imagine Moses collected things out of fun, like wisdoms. I mean, we kind of have that on Wikipedia. Kind of. Imagine Moses was a collector of wisdoms. Just like a martial artist today in the MMA collects martial arts black belts, right? This guy's got Jeet Kune Do. This guy's got Taekwondo. This guy's a wrestler. He's got 7 martial arts under his belt, right? Type 1. Moses collected wisdom. Do you realize how powerful that is? He was the black belt of all black belts of wisdom. So when Moses wrote it, he didn't have to wonder if it was true. He knew it was true. And he didn't have to wonder how to say it either. He copied and pasted from his wisdoms. If I told you an analogy from wrestling, do you think I could explain it to you in an authentic wisdom and vernacular? If I said you got to hit a barrel roll, do you believe me? Is that how you say it? The answer is yes. Now, let's say I want to give another analogy from police or law enforcement. Can I convince Eric that I'm an authentic cop? What do you think, Eric? Do you think I'm so wise from making up my own garbage, I could trick you into thinking I know police enforcement? But what if I did in a theoretical domain, Eric? My name is Moses. Do you think I could, if I then spoke, would you be like, man, this guy knows cop stuff better than me? 1 or 2. And wouldn't that blow your mind? Because I would say it like a real pro. And then I speak about fabrics, Loretta. And I say, oh, yeah, you probably got the double stitch technique going on over there. You'd be like, whoa, he knows the double stitch technique? And Lars, I'm going to tell you all about the mountains of Norway. And like a triple peak canyon is quite impressive on the 3rd of March, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, how'd you know? Yeah. The guy is Wikipedia. He collected wisdoms. He had the vessels. You are not Moses. I am not Moses. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is not Moses. Shem himself was not Moses. You know who was Moses? Type in the answer. Who was Moses? Moses. It's refreshing, isn't it? This is why when God says, why weren't you Eric? Well, I wanted to be Moses. Well, why? You really think you're Moses? You're not Moses. But you could be Eric. Eric is a whole different category, akin to Moses, if you want to be on your own level, in your own Eric program. Now, Ma Shemo O Ma Shem Beno, says Mishlei, Besod Achoit Shepesharno Lamayle Shehu Mislavish Benishmat Moishe. The secret of the thread we explained above, that the soul of Moses, it's called Nishmat Moshe, was enclosed in Rabbi Shimon. Every generation, Torah scholars have enclosed in them the soul of Moses. The nation of the children of Israel have enclosed in them the soul of Moshe. We know that Moshe comes back in the Erev Rav every generation. So how do we actually live this out of the soul of Moshe being garmented in the children of Israel? Come on, you know the answer. You know the answer. The Ramdu is calling you, Eric Bryan. The Gerim who are enclosed in Israel as the fourth house of Israel, like a high priest who learns Torah. That is where the soul of Moshe interfaces the thoughts with the Bnei Israel proper. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, he was from the root of Moshe, the soul of Moshe. Yachu az yoyin ki gevar agia gam ki zman muchan lezeh lehem shich sora choyt hazeh el hakelim shel hanukva. The time was ready to continue the secret of this thread to the vessels of the Nuk, Mike Mouch, of the Nukva, the Malchus, the Yam, the sea, the boat, right? The thread from the Yesod, the male and female unification. Rabbi Shimon was going to receive from Moshe the vessels. We can see from this. Did you just hear the wisdom? Did you just hear the change of wisdom? What was it? Can you articulate it? I felt it big time. Did you feel it? Big dose of wisdom just came down. Did you hear it? Feel it? Sense it? Rabbi Shimon is the vessel. The soul of Moshe is a thread coming into Rabbi Shimon. What is the reality of that thread? How does one recognize Nishmat Moshe penetrating their vessel, their body, their malchus? Through the what? Revelation of the Torah of Shem. Moshe is garmented with the Torah of Shem into the vessel. What's that another way of saying? The vessels come into your vessel. Eric would call that the Torah of Mazel. You hear that? When you have refined your vessel to receive the 50 vessels of understanding, the hidden light of the Torah garmented in the soul of Moses, it will manifest itself through the revelation of the vessels of Moshe, he who collects wisdom. Therefore, you can, through magnetic attraction, have all of the vessels of Moses' wisdom only because of Eric Bryan's life story called what? Mazel. From Mazel. Your job is to not mess it up. Once you call it McDonald's, you just created a New Testament. Therefore, you let the vessels come into you, and all your job to do is say it. Let Moses be Moses. Your job is to speak the vessels. You're questioning, is that really what it's called? None of your business. You're not the Talmud Chacham Moses who went and learned every wisdom in the world. It's not your job to judge the words. Your job is to let the words come in and then say the words. It has nothing to do with you. It's your vessel what you have to do is refine your vessel. But after that, it has nothing to do with you. Nothing. That's right. Bring justice. Exactly. God pushes the justice through the Gerim and the Kruvim and the flame of the sword that turns. Your job, let it happen. Ego doesn't let it happen. Ve'ine be'osuzman nispashta ima v'ha'ira he oira shala lenukva. There was a bit of Ruach HaKodesh. Didn't I say that the vessels of Bina come into the body? Did you hear me say that? Yes. What does it say? At this time, Ima, which is Bina, is spread and enlightened 5 lights of her to Nukva. And this is the secret ki ben Nukva yesh ba Elohim. Right, the secret of the putting the name Elohim in the Mi'ele. V'hu sod ha'choshech shel ha'guf v'ha'kelim she'amreinu. That the Nukva, the female, you, your vessel, your body, is just kalim in darkness. See, God created you with those vessels. They are your body. All Moses did was he was a master of his own body. If you are an engineer, what is the fast track of understanding all engineering wisdom? Learn your body. If you want to be a sewer, what's the fastest way to know sewing wisdom? Know the body. How do I know that, Loretta? Because Moses says so. Ach be'agia leia achut hazeh. Thus it'll reach to her this thread. As nimshich or lezeh ha'elohim v'hu nimta. Then it'll continue the light to this ha'elohim. Remember what we said? Ha'elohim, Lars. How many times last night were you calling the justice, true God, the Shem Elohim? Well, here you go. V'hu nimtak. So if you have justice and God and darkness in the vessels, when the vessels come in from Moses, it's a natural sweetening and turning light from darkness. V'sod ha'imin, ki b'techila ne'amar, uva ha'aretz, ha'yisar tohu v'avo, v'choshech al. The beginning of this secret is on the land that was chaos and void, and darkness was on the surface. Besod moyach leiv kavid, the secret of the brain, the heart, and the liver. V'acher kavayomer Elohim yor. God said, let there be light. V'yesh hey pami yor. There are 5 times mentioned light. L'mtak hey ha'oisius to Elohim. Elohim is 5. Oisi is 5 letters. 5 times we said or, light, makes each letter the name of God. What was that? Each time it said light, it repaired and sweetened God's name, Elohim. Lars, doesn't that sound like our Kohen Gadol? Doesn't that sound like our Kohen Gadol? But really, the secret is the sweetening comes from Bina Ima. Ki halo gam hachot atzmo magia el zon me'ima ki yedua. If the soul of Moses impregnates the vessel with lights and vessels, that really is happening, like we said, from the vessels of understanding. It's more important that you understand something and then you digest it and you get the elixir of all life and all wisdom. So here we have a secret. How did Moses learn every wisdom? He processed every understanding into an every wisdom mentality. You understand that? If you would just digest your food and understand everything that you encounter, you don't have to go to Wikipedia. Just understand everything that comes your way. Don't waste your food. Eat your mazel. You will then get wisdom into every department you need that exists. Right? It's like a learning curve. When you know how it is, when you're on a learning curve, you start understanding it. That's where the wisdom comes from. U'ba'ima yesh Elohim nechlal behavaya besod hanakuda shalom. The name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and Elohim are united in the name in the sphere of Bina. V'sham nimtak besod hey or. There in Bina is where Yud Kei Vav Kei sweetens Elohim, where darkness becomes light. Ve'az nasis nukva tevis noyach. That's what allows the Malchus, the kingdom, the dark vessel, to become an Ark of Noah. Since in the beginning, Hayarak v'ruach Elohim merachefis al panei hamayim, the spirit of Elohim was hovering on the waters. Va'az lo nasa b'chinas teva, ela hakol aimdim betoch hamayim. Darkness is where there's no vessel, just water, just darkness. An existence without vessels. Dehainu asitra achra sholektis bagolus. The Sitra Achra is ruling in exile. Right? When you watch Torah being given without vessels, no names will be mentioned. That is the Sitra Achra ruling in Gullus. Type 1, incognito. The Ruach magia lehem b'mati v'lo mot. The Spirit, which we say that's the Messiah hovering over the waters, Nishmat Moshe. It touches but doesn't touch. Al kol zeh haga b'sod Elohim lavad. This is the secret of the name Elohim. Acher kach vayomer Elohim yihor b'sod avaya b'nikud Elohim b'sod hey or hamitkanim hey oisius Elohim. God is always right next to you in darkness. Meaning the vessels are with you. You have the vessels. They're in you. Because God is right next to you. You can't not help but have the vessels. All you're waiting for is not the vessels, but for God to say, Loretta, let there be light. It's all you're waiting for. All you're waiting for is God to tell you, Eric, let there be light. Then it'll make the Bechina Chas B'toch Hamayim, Shehi Teva. Meaning, then he will make one aspect in the midst of your water, in the midst of your darkness, your vessel, which is the ark. Vehi Metzias his pashtis, Sanukva Bechina Sachas. You'll have a reality spread through your darkness in your vessel. Even in Michigan. You'll separate from those around you. Those who merit to be in her shade. Even if you're a ger in klipa, you will be taken outside of klipa. Kamo noyach mamish shahaya betoch hateva bein meyamabel. Are you really going to claim that you're more ben Noach and in more klipa than Noach, who was in klipa? One or two? This is why it's ridiculous to tell the ger they can't learn Kabbalah, right? We have the Zohar as Jews, which is like Noah's Ark. And you, the Noahide, can't be on Noah's Ark. What? You will never be more Noach and more Klipa than Noach. All the more so if I'm a Ben Noach and in Klipa today, I can be on Noah's Ark. It's the opposite way. The Chiddush was that Noah could be on Noah's Ark, not you. All the more so a Jew. Therefore, Ad Shelo Nimseis Bechinas Teva Lo Ayev Shor La Sois Tikunim Kamosha Asa Rashbi. While there was no ark, it's not possible to do the Tikunim. Until God commanded Noah, there was no salvation. Until God revealed to the Rashbi to go to the cave, there was no Torah Shem. The beginning of Torah Shem coming out of Gullus from the time of Moshe was tonight Lag Ba'omer Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave. Ki mishu b'toicha klipis. Ir sharlo letaken tikunim eile. Eile aleph lamed hey of Shem Elohim. So when we're in Klippa, we cannot bring out the Shechina. Therefore, how do we today in the Ger generation elicit a messianic trigger? Only if God removes us from Klippa. Ach kishanim sesateve. However, when we find the ark, hari mako manoso master mina sitra achra sheshav yochila adam haletzel asos tikunim. When we discover a secret place away from the sitra achra, that there a man is able to be rescued to make the tikunim. What do the Gerim do? They allow a place removed from Klippa, away from the Noga, for the Jew to enter an ark in order to make the tikkunim on the vessels. This is the secret of being back to back. Right? It's back to back for the sake of blocking out the klippas. And when they go up to Abba Ve'ima, they unite. So when Zerat bin and Nukva, the male and female, are back to back working on it, then they can elevate to Abba and Ima wisdom and understanding in order to unite. I mean, we unite in our vessels above. When you are outside of this spherotic arc, you cannot fix. When you are brought in the spherotic arc, you can fix. The waters of the flood were the Sitra Achra over the entire land. Ach behachnisam leteva yecholim lataken tikunim. When God brings you to the ark, you can fix tikunim. Ve'al kein tavin ki lo yachlu tikun avohitzi lo ragula. Therefore, you will understand, since we're not able to do repairs, Lahaitzi la or hagula ki rak besoda teva nasu va'ode fresh lacham mizevis yatri shmaya. Therefore, you should understand we're not able to do tikkunim to bring out to light the gula, except only with the secret of the ark that is made. And furthermore, I will explain to you the siyatid yishmaya in another time. This is the sod. Tsar tasu teva. She'ein bechina zois dimsis ella behischaber ima lenukva besod hey orshel. How do you actually make the ark? It's when you unite ima to nukva, bina and malchus, in the secret of the 5 lights. Az nasis nukva teva. You transform Malchus to an ark. By the way, the other word for teva, ark, is either letter or word. So therefore, if Malchus is the mouth, how do you do it, Eric Bryan? You turn what? thought, speech, and action. Everything you be in speech, thought, and action, it's not darkness in the body, it's malchus becomes words, Zoharic words. Everything becomes a proper elevated word filled with letters. V'zeh sod sefer hazoyhar. It is a book of words, refined words. Sha'amru shahuzi ira, zuhura de'ima ilah. The level of Adam before the sin. Adam had sublime speech before the sin. Therefore, we can deduce what? What was the sin of the snake and Eve? He gave them what kind of an apple, Eric Bryan? What kind of an apple did Eve give Adam? Starts with an M, ends with an S. What do you call that? Mickey Donald's. She gave him McDonald's to eat, i.e., she taught him foul language, as opposed to non-Zohar words. You might call it vulgarity. Eve learned vulgarness from the snake. Adam then thought it was cool to speak vulgar. It isn't. The Umar Mishinyin Soyer Mizkar Bepus as Nemar Va'al Elima Taklina Milmila Va'ima Hu Besoyer Aleph Ma Shahu Haman Nizkar Dahainu Achot. The way you spell the word Ima, mother, Aleph and Ma. Mike will tell you what Ma is. 45, Ma, Adam, which is the thread. Hine Afshu Mispashim Ima Lenukva. Ach Vadai Sha'oiver Derech Hazar. It's not even about Ima, and it's not even about Malchus. It's about going through Zah. We got to deal with Adam. If Eve was Bina and something else was Malchus, I don't know what that would be. But they had to go through Adam. You know why? That's it. Eve was Bina. The snake was the Sitra Achra, like Noah. Adam was Ma. How do you get from Eve to Adam to Malchus? You know the answer. Do you know the answer? Who was Malchus in the story? The answer is it was not written because it never happened. Adam learned the vulgarness. My point is Malchus was not in the garden because Malchus has never happened. The Torah of Shem has not been revealed yet. Malchus is in the garden, but we still are learning Eve and Adam being ruined. It is in his mind, but the thought hasn't been given yet. Adam is still thinking about the apple. When Adam stops thinking about the apple, we will have Malchus in the garden. Torah of Shem, it was there, we never thought of it. That's beautiful right there. Ela sho'ever derech magir ba'alma. Ki kevan shetzarich labo mebechina se'ima sari shelo yishtana lemadregis zah. Since we need to come from the aspect of Ima, you need that it shouldn't change lemadregis zah. Zah should not fundamentally change. Adam should not change. Because if he does change, he gives over to Malchus with ego. We want no ego. So basically, you will understand how Eve gave Adam an apple when you stop putting your ego into that story and let it just happen. See, you are biased and you're telling me how the story of Adam and Eve in the garden happened. You're not letting it just happen. Let it happen. Read Eric Bryan and Lars, I'm challenging you. Read the story of the apple and let her just give him the apple. Stop calling it McDonald's. Let Eve go out from the Nachash. Let Adam eat it. Let him not change by it. Let it happen. V'derech his pashtu derech ha'alef shebe'emsa shema dezah. It's the aleph of the name Ma that gives you 4 to 5. Ve'ein zeh hama shelachot. It's not the same Ma of the thread. Sheha aleph hazoyis kavar yodat shehu aleph haba b'zironpit. Al keinemar ve'el ima tachlena v'soida kala b'sod ki yud lehei hamalucha sharis kala. The reason why Eve is not the culprit is because the mother of all living is above the Sitra Achra. V'haven heitiv inyan zeh shelateva. Ki hu ikar inyan zoyer v'kula tikunav v'kol zuhu ma sheparashi l'cha b'sod v'el ima tachleina milmayla ki hine yachob is pasha b'nukva Al kize arnu aimrim shaboyina oiris me'ima limtak. Bina is giving all the tikkunim. This is the Zohar. It's the thread spread in the nukva, which will become the ark. Do you see what we're saying here? Adam is the problem. And the thread, people, see, Adam thinks this is it. Adam thinks he's the thread. See, if you speak through me, I think that I get credit for saying it. It's like the ventriloquist has convinced himself that he is the star of the show. The dummy, the puppet of the ventriloquist thinks, like Peanut thinks that he's the star of the show. You understand? Jeff Dunham and Peanut thinks he's the star. Really, it's Jeff Dunham and not Peanut. Adam thinks he's the star because Eve works through him. Adam is just the facilitator. Eve was trying to do it, but Adam, with his ego, blamed Eve. Ach sod ha'inyan hu ki behester achoit nistarim imai tikunim rabim mitikune asfiris v'kelim atzman. This is why Eve became the mother of all living. She is trying to sweeten herself. Who was Malchus in the garden? Eric Bryan. Who is Malchus? Do you know the answer? Eve. Eve is trying to sweeten Eve, and she used Adam to do it. But because Adam saw that Eve was with the snake, he assumed that he should have the right to consciousness and an opinion. If Adam would have not been giving judgment to Eve, but letting the justice laws flow through him, then the upper Eve would influence the lower Eve. Then Eve rectifies Eve. Let Eve be. You know the answer to the tikkun of the garden? There is no tikkun to the garden. What was Adam supposed to do with Eve? And what was Eve to do with the Nachash? That's your ego. Leave Eve alone. Eve was supposed to, that's your opinion. I didn't say that. Leave Eve alone. That's the answer to the garden. What should Adam have done? It's not even the question is your problem. The very question, what should Adam have done, is the problem. There is no question. It just is. You understand? You are assuming Adam was to do something. Just let Eve do what she's doing. Adam there is only a thought. He never did anything and he never spoke. He is a thought. Adam in the garden is thinking. That's what he's doing. That's all he's doing is he's thinking. Because he was thinking. He was thinking. So let him keep thinking. Let Adam continue to think. Therefore, what did Eve do? She gave Adam an apple. That's all. The story from there on is a story about man and his thoughts. Leave Eve alone. V'akelim atzmikia lo gam lehinim soyim tikunim yeduim shetzrichlim lehamatze behem mitzad atzmim milvan achot shebetoichem. The secret to the 50 gates of understanding are meditate. Have you ever heard the idea of meditate? What does it sound like? One hand clapping? What is the sound of one hand clapping? Here's where the meditation comes from. Meditate into Eve eating the apple. That's what you meditate on. No snake and no Adam. Eve ate an apple. That's the meditation. Those are the vessels, the 50 vessels. When you think about it, they go through Zog. They have nothing to do with you. Therefore, you don't have the right to an opinion. And thereby, you become the ark. When you speak, you will bring light into existence.